Welcome back to part 2 of this teacher career transition story. So if you haven't listened to part 1, head back to our channel and check that out before listening in because we're kicking off right where we left off. If you've already listened to part 1, then let's dive in. I'm Lisa Harding, ex-EdTech CEO turned certified teacher career coach. It wasn't all that long ago that I was recruiting, interviewing, and hiring teachers for roles in corporate America. Teachers that ended up being some of my all-time best employees. Fast forward through my own career transition, where I left my role as CEO to become a stay-at-home mom, I now work with and empower teachers to transform their lives by turning their once distant career dreams into realities. In this podcast, I give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're a burnt-out teacher or simply need a change and you're looking to create a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started.
And then Samantha, I had one person ask, so we've kind of talked about all right, you left at the end of the school year and then come August, you were like, I'm feeling the time. You started the academy in August. How quickly after that were you then contracted with your current position?
Yeah. So after, it was probably like mid to late August when I started the academy. And then I got my first learning and development interview in late October. And I started my role the week of Veterans Day in November. And that was my temporary role. And then I got hired full-time in February of this year.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for giving that time frame. So for people who are wondering too, it sounds like about a 6 month from like leaving the classroom to then officially starting your new career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will say that too, everyone is different. Like some people are shorter, some people are longer. And I will say it's a crazy job market. Like Samantha and I were both looking around the same time, and the market is different now than it was when Samantha and I were looking. And Samantha and I are two people that definitely found things on the faster end of the job market right now. So it is something that as much as we would love to plan for things to line up, like it is tough to do. And I know someone in here was asking about like, okay, I'm in that similar shoes where I don't have a backup plan and I need to leave. Like, what advice do you have? So Samantha, can you give any advice of like, what were things that you did when you're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I have to do something. So where would you concentrate your efforts, or if you could go do it all over again?
Oh, if I could do it all over again, like focusing on like the field I wanted to go in would have helped me so much with my resume, and like having targeted like my marketing materials were not targeted to any sort of job. I was working way too hard and spending so much time on every single job application trying to make it work. Whereas if I could have been looking at all of those learning development jobs at the beginning, I think that would have been helpful. I think also think creatively about, your plan B, plan C. I knew kind of like when my time was going to be up as far as like trying to find an exact like full-time job and like needing to supplement my income. And so like I had kind of a realistic, plan with my family of what was going to work money-wise. And I was fairly lucky to have, some buffer in there. And that was built around to my, I was like, okay, the way my district works is like they portioned out our paychecks. So you get your money still in the summer. So it's like you paying yourself later for the work you did. So I knew I still had those paychecks coming in for a little bit. And so I kind of planned around that as well.
And if I could add my 2 cents in as someone who also left without a plan. So my story was I left at the end of the year and I had planned my whole wedding and honeymoon around being a teacher on summer break without realizing I was going to leave and then need a job as soon as I got back from my wedding and my honeymoon, which was 5 weeks in total between the two of them. So I did the same where I thought, I was like, I know I'm not realistically even going to have a job until like minimum August by the time I'm back from all this, because that is the summer I planned for myself. So I was also someone who was like, I'm going to spend my whole day while I'm not working, like applying to specific things, being really intentional about each piece. But on the flip side, I also had that backup plan of like plan B, plan C. I did have a paycheck like you that was coming in at least through the end of July. So I could at least count on it through then. And then what I did for myself is I actually just found a bunch of like very small part-time jobs that were easy for me to string together at home. So I know for some, I was like going to be a copywriter on one thing. I looked at doing like editing on another website. I myself, even when I was teaching, I did dog sitting and I did dog walking. That was like an easy thing that I was able to sign up for and do. So what I looked at was like, what is the minimum amount that I need to make while I'm looking for a job if I don't have something by this time frame? And then I was just going to string it together with a bunch of part-time jobs. So that was what I was able to do. Samantha gave her insights. It does look different for everyone depending on where you are and what you need and what type of flexibility that you have. But if you are someone who's about to leave without a plan, if there's any advice that I think Samantha and I could both agree on, it's just make sure that you know what that backup plan is. Because like realistically, yes, we want to get something, but you just want to make sure you know what you absolutely are able to do if that time frame is just not working out in your favor. And then Jamie, thank you for being also so patient. I know that question came so long ago and it was actually the one I was about to get to next. So Samantha, can you talk a little bit more about your day-to-day responsibilities? And then Jamie's also wondering, do you see growth in your field?
Yeah, so my day-to-day, I mean, I remember when I first started in November, December, I was like shocked that I had free time in my day. Like, you know, getting up and going to the bathroom anytime I wanted. That was like crazy. And I felt weird about it. And I was originally, as a learning and development specialist, working on, we had a new software that all of our staff needed to be trained in. And we had a training contractor, you know, providing that training, but it was like 800 people to slot in all these training spots. So I was like living in Excel, talking to supervisors, when will this work? And then sending out email communications for that and rescheduling people. So that was my first kind of project that I did for a couple months. And now as my full-time role as a training specialist, I am facilitating our orientation trainings. So I do that for most regular employees every 2 weeks, a multiple day, like full day training, where I present maybe like half of it at most, up in front of the group. And then the other times I'm also coaching some of our other training facilitators. So we have my organization is a nonprofit that does healthcare and some other like social services. So we have folks who are trainers through their job roles that I am now coaching as well. So I go and observe trainings. You know, I have so many hours and years of experience being in front of folks and training. So, you know, any sort of teaching tips that I can give to people, they're really, really appreciative of it. They know their stuff so well. They just need some, you know, polishing of being in front of people and, you know, teaching tips of like, hey, this is where I'd switch to partner chat, or like, this is how I do discussion. You know, that's a really fun part of my job right now that I'm getting to do. Besides for those, which is those things like live trainings that happen, which are maybe 2 to 3 days a week. I'm talking with my team, making our trainings better, but the timeline is like expansive compared to teaching. You know, I have weeks, days to get things done most of the time versus like when I'd be making things better at, you know, 7:45 a.m. in the morning before I go and teach it that day. So that's great. The folks on my team also, that we fill in for each other. So there's no writing sub plans or doing things like that. Like I wake up, I feel sick. I just tell my supervisor and she's like, I'll see you when you feel better. Like, and that's it. So I always felt like I had to like make a call by like 3 a.m. and then stay up for another 2 hours writing something. I was not very efficient when it came to subplans, but I was always like trying to make them perfect, and then very disappointed. But I don't have to worry about that anymore, which is great.
That's not nice enough to worry about that. Like, yeah, that it's harder to take a day off teaching than it is to just like show up. I can all
exactly
to that. And then we got another great question about upskilling. So for people who are wondering, upskilling is taking the skills that you have and just kind of like leveraging up a bit more to figure out how to make them like the most applicable to your new job. So you obviously did a lot of transferable skills of like, here are the things I'm already doing that I can do for you. But do you think there's any skills that within this field that you really had to go practicing it better at to be even considered for some of these roles?
The things that I did that I thought was helpful was I did some research around like adult learning theory, like how can I translate all my work I did with kids into working now with adults. And just like, it was more like awareness, like that kind of transferring what I did, because it's not the same as going and getting some formal schooling on it, but it made me like a lot more knowledgeable and able to talk through what I was already good at and how that would fit in with that process. And just different strategies that are out there, and you can do that just like on Google, like adult learning theory, training adults, and see what's there. And then the other thing I did was I took like a very beginner level course on Articulate, which is a curriculum design software. And I'm like, was trying to do as much as I could within like free trial periods and things like that. And I don't use that a lot in my job, but it was something where I was like, I'm familiar with it at least. Like, and if you're good at tech tools, I think, those things are not super hard to learn.
Yeah. I did have someone asking about what are some of the workplace LMS systems that people use. And I'll say those are definitely all over the board and are going to be very different depending on who you're with. My advice would be, I would be less concerned with like knowing the ins and outs of all the LMS and more just making sure that you know what the different types of LMSs are. And if you're already saying LMS to me, then it makes me think you probably have a level of understanding that you're going to be good. I know that is it like a plus if the exact system they're using? Totally. But let's be real. Most of the systems are the same. It's kind of like teaching where it didn't matter what attendance system you're using an attendance system. So as long as you can talk to how you would use a certain LMS or like know about them more high level, I would keep the focus more there than trying to know like more of the nitty gritty of the specific ones. And then actually, Samantha, you brought up another good point. I remember this comment as well of someone saying, what if I'm tech challenged? Like, what can I do to help myself, especially in a job market that's very tech-based? Like, do you have any advice of things that either you found helpful or things that you would point someone to if they're trying to be a little bit more fluent in technology?
Yeah, I think in my job role too, I wouldn't underestimate things that maybe seem more basic technology, like just upping your skills in PowerPoint. Like that's what I use 90% of the time for everything is just PowerPoint. I came from a school that used Google products and now I'm working in Microsoft. So like, I'm just trying to figure out, like the small changes. I think, exploring and just being willing to learn things is great. Because my supervisor is always impressed, like, how did you know how to do that? I'm like, I just Googled how to do it or figured it out, asked somebody. It's totally fine. I try to use some like AI tools too to like, hey, walk me through the steps of how to do this formula in Excel. And you can find lots of things on the internet to help learn. I think starting with tools like that, like Excel or PowerPoint, is really great.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Teacher Career Transition Academy. Are you eager to explore new possibilities but find yourself unsure of where to start? Look no further than our Teacher Career Directory. Available for free, this comprehensive resource features over 200 careers tailored for transitioning teachers. Dive into detailed insights including average U.S. salary ranges, occupational outlooks, and even a personalized skills and interests inventory. Download now at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory. I'll also drop the link in the show notes of this episode. So don't miss out and claim your free directory today at teachercareertransitionacademy.com/directory.
And I love that idea of even ChatGPT, of having them explain it to you. Like, I've never thought of that. That's a genius idea. So if you're like, I don't know much about technology and there's something you want to know, just go ask ChatGPT and at least start there. It's like great.
I use it all the time like that. Yeah.
That I will say, for anyone who's wondering like about AI, like, AI in schools is a big thing. Every company is going to be different on like their use of AI. I had a job, my first job right out of teaching. My boss loved AI, use it all the time. Where now I'm in a job that I use it to support myself, but it's not necessarily needed. But what it is great for is supporting you transition of like some of those little pieces. Samantha, I think it's actually the part we're going to roll into next is talking about interviews. I think you told me you used ChatGPT to help you with interviewing practice. Is that right?
Yes. What I did was for the jobs that I was getting an interview for, I would ask ChatGPT, like, here's the job description. Here's the post from Indeed or LinkedIn. Write me 10 interview questions. And then I would sit there and just pretend like a person asked them to me. And then I would ask it like, okay, give me 5 more, and or ask me about this. And I would sit like with my resume or with my, my notes about what I did as a teacher and then think about how to answer those questions. And that was helpful just as like a mock interview in a room by myself, quietly walking through how would I explain what I did. So it was actually fairly close to what I was asked, which was great. Yeah.
Probably shows that they're also using ChatGPT to generate the questions that they're going to be asking you in your interview. So use the resources that they're also going to be using, and you will be pleasantly surprised. So I know one thing Samantha told me is when we thought about her using the academy, a lot of her efforts are really in the first few steps. So in identifying the career, and then the marketing materials is where she used it the most. So it sounds like you did use the academy a bit for the interview prep, but at that point things were just going so quickly. It was more just like trying to go as quickly as can. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. The interview, I felt like it was like, you got to be ready the next day. Like they were really getting me in there quickly. I mean, I had multiple rounds in it, but it was like very fast turnarounds each time. And the thing I was really pleasantly surprised about was that the interview process was actually pretty similar to what I did as a teacher. So like if you've done an interview as a teacher, like tell me a time that you did something like this. Like I had most of my teaching interviews were like that, where, you pick a story from your teaching to connect those dots for them. And so that I felt comfortable with. So that was great.
Yeah. And now that you even talk about that, and like you said, it did happen so quickly. And oftentimes that can be the case with interviews, that once you're in the pipeline, that process is going to move quickly. So it can be hard to feel like when you're doing your resume, it's an open amount of time that you could spend updating it and applying to things, where the interview now is on a much more tighter timeline. So I even love thinking about some of the tips that you're giving of, even if you're not there yet, maybe give yourself a goal. I'm going to practice 5 interview questions this week. So then that way, by the time that an interview rolls around, I remember the first time I did an interview, I felt like I got off it and I was like, woof, rusty, like very much like, yes, I have these skills. I just haven't had to do it in a while.
Yeah.
Like, so I kind of love that. Like, you don't need to spend a lot of time right now prepping yourself for interviews. Like, spend that time once you have it. But if you want to feel a little bit more comfortable, like use those tips and tricks that you just gave right now, a little bit each week, just to get yourself more familiar and saying that story. Like you said, a lot of the same questions, you're going to be saying a lot of the same things over again. So just rehearsing that now will make you feel a lot better about it, like later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Awesome. So I think, let me just checking here. Yeah, Lisa, Wolf Rusty is right. That was, you talked to me, I think, in those days. You should remember how rusty I was. Yes. I love all the questions that have been coming in. So please use this chance if you have any other questions for Samantha, because Samantha is like the most insightful, whether it's about her journey or about this field. Please drop those in the chat. And I want to just give a big shout out. We had so many questions coming through this time. I normally don't have to write them down. I normally can remember them. Today, I literally had to write them down to make sure I got through all of them, which means you all did exactly what I asked you to do, which was ask questions. That's exactly what this time is for. So if you have any other ones, please feel free to put them in now. And if you don't, I'm still going to be passing it over. Like I said, I do actually stop talking at some point. It's about to happen. Samantha, any final words that you would like to give as we get some questions coming in here as well?
I think just, if you're interested in leaving teaching, or if you've made that decision, I really am thankful I did that for myself. It is like night and day. Like my first winter break that I went through, I was like, people were asking me like, do you miss having time off? And I'm like, no, like I'm so happy to go back to work now. I'm working right now. It's my first summer break not having off, and it's totally fine. It's great. So if you're worried about some of those things, it's real, but I think amount of like presence I'm able to have when I am with my family is so much different than what I was bringing before that, it's worth it to me for sure.
I love that. Just the fact you can be present with them. That is so important, because that's what you did all day for your students. And it's so important that you can bring that to your own too. And then let me see, Tammy, what were some of the design skills that you mentioned that were helpful to have? Great question, Tammy.
Oh, for like curriculum design?
Yeah.
Is that right? So I think like any sort of curriculum planning that you've done for a unit is transferable to learning and development. Whether you worked from like a canned curriculum or like a curriculum program at your school and like honed it to like what you wanted for your students, you can use that. adult learning theory, like it's really similar to like backwards planning and thinking about your learning objectives. So a lot of it's extremely similar. I think it's mostly then thinking about what format you're going to put it in and how to use tech tools. But I think the thought process, the folks that I work with who are former teachers, like I'm like, this is good. They're doing really good work. And just the way you think about that end goal for, folks in your training, what exactly do they need to learn? And then how can I get creative in that process to get them there? It's the same as what you're doing already.
You phrase it so simply, and that's exactly what it is. It's just doing it for a different audience and maybe a different subject matter. Totally. A great question from Jamie too. Did the people you were hired from, did they ask you for work samples or a portfolio in your process?
No, they didn't. So I think that might be something specific to like how my organization works as far as like the division of work, and maybe specifically like training specialists and learning and development specialists versus someone who might need to be doing a lot of curriculum designing in their job. I think a lot of the work samples I see in similar jobs are for that curriculum design kind of thing.
That makes sense. So maybe not, still in learning and development, you may need it, just maybe not necessarily the training specialist type.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that is for people who are wondering, especially summer break, if you have time, it is always worth using your extra time now to start even putting together a little portfolio, even if it's as simple as just a Google Drive with some files uploaded to it. Because if you do want to share them, you're going to thank yourself later when you already have a folder of your best work. So you don't have to, while you're in your transition, be like, let me think about all of my years of things that I've done and what was really good. So now it's a great time to build a portfolio.
Or save them off of your, hard drives before you leave your job is important too. I frequently am like messaging folks like, hey, do you still have that thing I made 2 years ago in your Google Drive? Yeah. So my teacher friends. So get the stuff that you thought was good now, and that you can use that, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then like keep building. Like if you are still in the classroom and you get something new, drop it in there. So then you can start using it if you are kind of like on a time frame of when you want to be applying. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I think I have gotten through all of the questions. Maybe just you, Lisa. It's just your question. Let me just double check. Great question. So Sonia's saying that they have a physical portfolio. Any recs on how they could turn that into a digital portfolio?
Ooh, for like, I would think about looking at Articulate. You could get a free trial and seeing like how it's like a kind of a cross between an LMS where you're laying out modules of learning and like a website creator. If you've ever done like some like Wix or a website maker. So very similar, you could play with that. Use free tools though, like Google Drive, Google's products is great too. I think playing with presentations could be, a good way to show off your skills. I don't know. Do y'all have anything to add to that of good ideas?
I think you hit on most of the ones I would say with Lisa. Do you have any other suggestions for like websites that people could use to make it digital?
Yeah, so I've seen when I was hiring and recruiting teachers, people would just use even a Google slide. And if you go to Slides Mania, some of you may be using that in the classroom. They have really great free slide templates that are like based like a portfolio. And then you just literally add your own links to your produced items. And so you're basically sending someone like a Google slide, but they look very professional. Slides Mania is free. At least it was last time I used it, to kind of get the template of a portfolio would look like. And then just link to your documents. You might have to host them somewhere. And just upload those, host them on the web somewhere, and link to those.
Another great tool that I actually use in my job too now is Canva. They have a lot of free resources that make things look really nice and polished for, portfolios or, any sort of material that you want to have look a little more creative. Not great.
Caution, do not use their resumes. Like that is a big no-no for getting through the ATS. And Samantha knows, like,
yeah, don't do that.
I want your resume to be pretty much like as plain and ugly as possible.
Yeah.
And just have really great words on the page.
But if you wanted like some sort of cool looking tip sheet or protocol kind of thing that you designed, that's a great thing. Like we use that for, flow charts or something like that at my job. Yeah, but exactly what Lisa said. Just go, the simpler, the better for the resume.
Yeah.
And Canva is a tool that is used a lot.
Say that again, Lisa.
Canva is a tool that's used a lot in like corporate America. I think it's like a go-to tool now. We used to have to hire designers that knew like Adobe Illustrator, and now really anyone can design anything in Canva. And I think just so many businesses use that. So if you use it in your classroom, definitely make sure to highlight that as a transferable skill on your resume.
I work in marketing. So for anyone who's like interested possibly in something in that field, I use Canva every single day, like literally every day. So luckily I had experienced it like before my job, but definitely just like play around. It's kind of fun. Like sometimes it's like a little game, at least for me. I enjoy that type of thing though. So let me see. So Samantha, first, a kudos to how beautifully you've shared how you have so many transferable skills, but have you noticed a need or would there be a benefit in being certified in learning and development?
I don't know. I'm only in my first like role in one organization, so I don't know the different, like if that would be helpful for me, if I was going for another role. I don't feel like there was anything that I've been asked to do in my job that I didn't already have a basis for being able to do from just my experience teaching.
Love that. So definitely I would lean into the transferable skills then. Like, would it help? Sure, maybe, but like it sounds like you can get exactly where you are with just having the skills you already have.
A lot of companies, once you're in, if you need a certification, they will pay for it and or give you the time to actually do that. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
And then Jamie, I think I found an article on this and I'm going to link answering how to link your library card with LinkedIn Learning. So if anyone's wondering, just look for that reply. Again, just giving another shout out. Amazing questions coming through. It's exactly what we hope, that all of you can just like get your questions answered. So
on the LinkedIn Learning, sorry, because I'm the one that went on that tangent in the chat. So I went into my library's website and then they had a button that I clicked and it told me what code to use for my library. And then I just had to enter the digits on the back of my library card. And that's how I got in. Okay. But it could be different, just sharing my personal experience.
Lovely. If you guys are having any other questions, please keep them coming in the chat. But I at least want to use this moment because I know I'm getting close to time with Samantha here to say, Samantha, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story is so important for people to hear. Is one, it's so relatable and just like feeling that need to have something new. And maybe there's a lot of people here that are like, I left without a backup plan. I'm just trying to figure it out. So thank you for all of your amazing advice and your insights into this career. I know that if I was sitting on the other end, I would find everything that you said so helpful. So we are so appreciative of you joining tonight and just sending a million thanks your way.
Well, friends, that concludes another inspiring teacher career transition story. Whether you're left feeling certain that this career path is your next calling, or you can cross it off your list, I know you're walking away with valuable insights to take with you. If you want to access even more stories like these, there's an entire library of teacher career transition stories within the Teacher Career Transition Academy under the Career Exploration module of the program. If you're interested in learning more about the Academy, I'll drop a link in the show notes. And don't forget to check out our podcast channel for other great advice from our coaches and experts. Until next time, remember friends, the journey is just the beginning. Embrace the adventure.